Well, I'm laughing because I'm hoping I don't mess this up. Welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean right here on the Rock Rage Radio Network, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. I have Daniel East from the band Sálezianos. Is that right?
That is correct.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, my friend, thank you. You're all the way over in Australia, so we had some time differences to figure out. But thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
So tell me about this little operation that you have and what you guys have on the go all the way there down under.
Yeah, so Nick and myself, we it's just the two of us currently. We're so far as like the creation of the music side of things, but basically we hooked up in early 2019, and at that time we played as a four-piece under the name Larry Leadfoot, and played a few shows, released a couple of EPs under that moniker, but eventually wound up just being Nick and myself who rebranded to Sálezianos. And basically, we have been working with Henry Derek Ellis from bands like Calm, formerly of Scar the Martyr, and so on, who provides handles the vocal duties. So basically, it's Nick and I here sort of writing, recording, and producing the instrumental, I should say, side of things as opposed to the music. It's all music. And then sending it across to our boy Henry, who then works his magic and puts his vocals and lyrics to it. And yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Well, and I mean, the way that the world is now, I mean, it's beautiful and brilliant. I mean, I've done tracks for people where I've never met them and probably never will meet them, but you're able to do that through technology.
Yeah, man, it's just absolutely like the possibilities of being able to hook up with someone like, that's on the other side of the world. To be able to, and in almost, I wouldn't say real time, but like very quickly and efficiently get things done, shared, progressed. Yeah, it's nuts. That's one of the benefits of modern technology, obviously pros and cons, but that's certainly for, in our space, that's been a godsend.
Absolutely. I had the opportunity to play a song for an artist out of California, and he got on the Billboard top 100 or whatever. And it was one of those things where I couldn't tell anybody I was on it because I got an NDA for certain things.
Okay.
Well, and the reason is because the part that I played was very small, and they didn't want to the drummer did a great track. He was just having a problem with one little spot. And they didn't want to give the facade that there was somebody else on the track.
Oh, yeah. That'll just that. Yeah.
So Sálezianos, that to me has a Spanish-Mexican connotation or a sound to it. Where does the name come from?
It comes from the dark recesses of my brain.
There you go.
Probably the next question is, what does it mean?
Right.
So Sálezianos, what I can tell you is that Sálezianos, by our limited, as in human beings, this is our limited sort of intellect and the way that we categorize things would basically, it's an entity that would be considered malevolent. That's what I can tell you.
Okay, so very wouldn't call it, if it was a genre of, say, like a book, or would it be a fantasy type connotation?
Genre wise,
I'm going fantasy somewhere with this, Daniel.
yeah, for sure. Look, I guess so. I guess that could be a relevant sort of categorization.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is because I hear the name, and when I meet a new artist, in order to get my viewers and my listeners into where they are, I always say, give us a comparable of who you might sound like. And when I hear that name, it's not like, Savage Garden, the band Savage Garden. You hear it and you think, oh man, this is going to be a minute. And then, the hot set of vocals, right? So what do we get from you guys when we
Oh, I get you. I thought you meant names specifically. No. Okay. So, so far as the musicality, it's very much based in experience and reality, human experience. So lyrically, we steer clear of sort of, socio-political commentary, but it's definitely grounded and rooted in reality and sort of our observations, our perceptions, our experiences. not necessarily from a single person sort of vantage point, like from the perspective of a person, but yeah, sort of born of things that either we find of intrigue or how we see the sort of state of existence and humanity and where it's sort of looking to be going, and but also just those like common sort of, everybody has experienced it in different capacities at different levels, but there's sort of those particularly dark and desperate sort of experiences that one goes through, the sort of the psychology around that and sort of an expression of that. I hope that answers your question. I feel like I'm just waffling on, but that's I'm trying to sort of encapsulate it.
It does, because I guess lyric wise and music wise and whatnot, like when I hear the name, I hear I don't know, like almost like a proggy theatrical storytelling sort of mindset where I'm not going to get songs about blonde hair, blue eyed girls. I'm going to get songs about not necessarily nuclear holocaust, but almost like a Megadeth type vibe to the lyrical content. Is that a
well, that's fair. I think there's a bit of that. I think you can make a fair comparison there. There's a bit of that. It's definitely, look, stylistically, the music is quite progressive and sort of experimental. So, on the nail on the head there. But it's very dark. It's sort of dark and chaotic. Okay, so the way that I find that I'm best able to describe it is by saying that it's cohesively schizophrenic. So it's kind of, it can catch you off guard. It can kind of go places that aren't anticipated, but it doesn't do so, in my opinion, in a jarring way. It flows and works as a package, but it is that it's intriguing. I find it intriguing. Well, but yeah, lyrically, it's quite heavy sort of stuff. Like the music itself is very heavy. And lyrically, it kind of matches that sort of theme. So they are topics and themes, and it explores things that aren't necessarily pleasant. It's certainly not blue-eyed, blonde-haired, pretty girls.
Yep.
It might be the, sort of fallout from, being emotionally abused by such people.
Well, no. I mean, that's fair, right? Because you got to write what is true to your soul and what means something to you. Like, one of the things about certain genres of music that I think annoy me a little bit is when you get into situations where there's writers that write for other singers, and the singers are singing somebody else's music, and it's like, there's this very insincere part to it where they're just singing lyrics that mean nothing to them. It's like, we want to hit, right?
If the lyrics are coming from like a personal centralized point of view, 100%, like, because it's saying, this me and I and me and me, and it's like, it's not you, it's like that dude. So it should be, but what we did on the very first song, so the very first song isn't like being sung from the perspective of a person, so to speak. It's not me, this, I, this, and so on. It's much more observatory and sort of predicting how things are likely to sort of pan out so far as our species. And that particular song, Nick and I wrote the lyrics for fully before sending across to H to have him do his thing, and he reworked it, rephrased things, and so on and so forth. Made it amazing as he does. But the second track, so this was Temet Noske, that was the first one we did with him. The second track, which has just come out, The Great Silence, that one is much more from a personal perspective. And that one, basically, I wrote a verse and sent it across to him because there's this medical stuff going on, and we just wanted to keep the ball rolling. But he took over and he wrote that, and he's written that as an expression from himself. So yeah, look, I get what you're saying, and I don't feel that connection that I would feel otherwise to lyrics from a vocalist who is writing from a personal perspective. If they're not singing it, if it's whoever else in the band that's written it, it's just, there's a bit of a disconnect there.
I've had the opportunity to interview close to 20 different artists from Australia, all a little different genre, and there's a couple of things that come into play that are very similar to Canada up here, and that geography between, I guess, venues and gigs, it can be very wide. So when you go out and play and try to do shows, you know, you're not 15, 20 minutes down the road. You could be 3 to 5 hours type thing.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're in the same situation when you're trying to go out and play, or are you guys actually taking this to the stage? Is it more of a studio project?
Well, currently the focus has just been on creating and recording, so getting these songs down. But touring and playing live, doing all of that, that's on the cards for sure. Logistically, yeah, there's going to be a bunch of stuff to work out there because Henry is situated in LA, and we're obviously, Nick and I are over here in WA in Victoria, rather, in Melbourne. But yeah, look, I mean, when we were playing shows over here, it was relatively simple for us ultimately because interstate, you know, it isn't a whole lot of traveling, like time wise for us over here. But yeah, when we're starting to look at things abroad, yeah, that's definitely gonna, of course, make things a lot more. There's going to be a lot more to consider and a lot more planning and a lot more time involved. But it's something we've discussed and talked about, and that's the intention, that's the goal. So we're going to continue on the track that we're on at the moment, so far as recording and getting things out there, and then we're going to look at the logistics around getting a tour in order.
Well, I'd love to get your 2 cents on this too, because it's a topic of discussion up here in Canada. As a Canadian, I can go anywhere in the world, and you know, with a passport and maybe a temporary work visa, and play anywhere except the United States, where I basically had to take a second mortgage out my house. You know, be able to get a visa, and once you get it, it's fine. But if it lapses, you're in the same boat of having to pay it again. What are your thoughts on that in terms of how that's maybe starting to hamper people? And is the United States on your radar to try to go play?
Yeah, 100% it is. 100%. Yeah, look, I mean, you're hearing it all the time so far as the costs associated with taking a show on the road now, and like breaking even nowadays is effectively the goal for the most part for the majority of bands, unless you're like an act that's, you know, pulling thousands and thousands per show, like the legacy acts that are well established and are able to do so. So I mean, it's a lot of sacrifice, and it's something that really you've got to do because you love and you want to, not because you're seeking to be a millionaire. Because the reality of the industry nowadays is that, you know, those days are long gone. So yeah, look, it's. I mean, we've made many sacrifices and so on in our personal lives ourselves, Nick and myself, to be able to pursue this, and it's something that he's on the same wavelength. We're you know, very much committed to basically the blood, sweat, tears, and as close to death without dying that is necessary to be able to achieve what we want. And so, yeah, look, it's something that is, whilst not ideal, it's what it is, and we're going to just have to sort of push through it.
Yeah. I mean, and everybody's in the same boat.
That's it.
Last summer, I had the opportunity to go. I was in a band that played in a wedding in Dublin, Ireland. I got over there and immediately saw why people love going to Europe. Just the whole vibe, the whole, you know, music fans it doesn't matter what it is, they just love it. And there seems to be genre for everyone, and there seems to be fans for everyone. Whereas North America seems to me to be a little bit more like Canada, you know, my home country. But man, oh man, there's a certain type of music that, you know, if you're not in it, it's tough slugging, right?
Right.
Australia, or you know, I love talking to people from over there because I hear so many different bands I've never heard of before, and then I forget about bands that I've heard of before. But is there something for everybody there?
Yeah, there is. I think so. I mean, most of our interactions are within the metal scene, the metal community here. It's a huge community. The metal scene in particular is enormous. But yeah, look, I mean, there are bands of every ilk around here. So there truly is. I mean, the being as isolated as we are sort of geographically, like you said, there's a million bands you haven't heard of. There's so many quality bands here that just either never really quite break out or are just content doing the sort of, you know, circuit around Australia. But there's some really great stuff. It's just getting that exposure and getting it out there and getting ears and eyes upon it ultimately, which is a little bit more of a challenge, sort of remotely as it is over here. But there's some absolute quality.
Yeah, and I mean, on the one hand, like as people say, you've never had so much opportunity to get your music out there. But on the other hand, it changes literally second by second, and it's never kind of in favor of the independent artist, right? It's always the majors that seem to have everything handed to them.
That's it. And the fact that anyone can release their music, every man and his grandmother has a band and an EP and a new single, and it's just saturated. So being able to sort of break through the noise, also, that's the other challenge as well for any up and coming acts. I think we've been joined by Nick.
And just in right now, Nick. How are you, sir? Can you hear us okay?
Your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying.
He can't hear it yet. He can't hear it. That's all right. He can get his stuff sorted out.
Yeah, cool.
So one of the questions that I've been asking people recently, just to kind of understand where they're from and live. Can you hear us, Nick?
Yeah. Hi. Sorry.
All right, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Sorry, hanging in there, my friend. Fellow drummer, I love it. So,
oh, nice.
In your country, so over here in Canada, there's opportunities for people if they fit a certain mandate to get funding from the government to do arts projects, recording, touring, that type of thing. It doesn't happen in the United States. People in the United States are like astounded. Do you guys have that ability, or do they offer that over in Australia?
There are opportunities for that as well. Yeah, so you can apply, but that's not something that we've personally looked into in any capacity at this stage. But yeah, it is something that happens here.
Interesting. So Nick, you're jumping on here. So we were just kind of talking about state of metal in your part of the world. I'm up here in Canada. Canada, where I live, not a great metal scene, but Toronto, Montreal, there's a good metal scene. How do you feel things are where you guys are living in terms of support for what you do?
For what we do, we don't get a lot of support, really. We've been banging our head against the wall for years trying to get people to help us out. I've gone out of my way to actually try and befriend some of the people who are higher up in the industry here.
Yeah.
And they kind of just expect you to do everything yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's the business nowadays, right? Unfortunately, we were saying, like Danny just before you jumped on, it's never been easier to get your music out, but it's never been harder to get past the minutia of what the major acts get to do and what they're afforded versus the indies. It seemed like everything is a difficult thing for them to do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's pretty tough over here, especially being so isolated.
Yeah. Well, Daniel was definitely that, no question. So, Daniel, what have you guys been doing in terms of getting your music out? You mentioned you had a couple of EPs that you've had out. Are you still, I guess, charting that course? Are you doing what seems to be the popular thing now and doing singles? What have you guys been doing?
What we're doing, we're literally releasing a song at a time at this stage, which we've just been doing one tune per month. Yeah. We've got another one coming out, hopefully the end of this month, which we've just had mastered yesterday, which is going to be an interesting one for people who are used to what we do in general. It's a slightly different vibe. It's a cover tune. But yeah, look, the way people consume music these days, nobody goes out and buys the album. And I used to love this. I used to love buying the CD, sitting down, positioning yourself dead center in between your speakers and just looking at the artwork, reading all the liner notes as you listen from beginning to end, going through that whole journey. But, nowadays it's all streaming. Everybody plays, gets their music via Spotify and so on. And so because people consume their music nowadays as a song effectively, the album experience, except for those, for some it is still a thing, but it's so rare. So yeah, it just makes more sense to us at this stage to kind of do each song as its own sort of thing, release that at a time. And the current idea that we've been sort of planning on following through with is like release each song, and then at the end you've got the full album, and here's the completed piece. I also like the idea as well of being able to digest a song individually. Like, you know how like you'll go back to some albums that you've had forever, and you know it's that old thing of like you finally don't skip that song that you've always skipped, and you're like, bro, why did I skip this song? This song is actually amazing. So rather than having like a whole lot of stuff to process and digest in the one hit, which again I loved the album experience, but yeah, it allows you to take each sort of thing and to fully experience and fully consider it, and then kind of go, okay, yeah, do I like it or is it rubbish?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
look, pros and cons as with everything.
Well, and I mean, you're bang on, because like it or not, I mean, attention spans are just in the toilet. People just and I hate to say it, but I mean, they do have a choice. You know, as Rush says, you know, I will choose free will. You do have free will. They just don't use it.
Yeah.
And that's an unfortunate thing. So you can either, you know, buck the trend and do the opposite, or you can kind of take what's put in front of you, but work your own way through it. Sounds to me like that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think you're right. Everybody these days, it's all about convenience, and even at the sacrifice of quality. It's like, you know, MP3 versus like, you know, versus wave format or FLAC format, and even still like anything that's like digital's compressed. I mean, look, every format there's going to be certain compression associated with, you know, the end result. But like people that were, you know, that were happy to, like, I was dating someone at a time, for example, who would have songs that were taken from like YouTube, would just had figured out how to download like the actual audio. And it was this like horrible. I don't know if you remember this, but like really early days of MP3, like you'd get songs that had all these like interference sounds. It was almost like it sounded like it was going through a washing machine or something.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. And the reason that I use that example is that some people, because of the ease of being able to get, you know, that song or whatever it is that they're after, so be it if it sounds a little bit shitty. It's the convenience of it. Whereas I wouldn't say I'm an audiophile, but maybe I am to a degree, because I'm super anal retentive about production and quality. Like, if it sounds bad, like I can still appreciate a song in a production sort of sense. But like when we're talking about, you know, a properly produced, recorded piece of music, and you give it in a format which hinders the ability to enjoy that, like the equivalent of listening to it through a shitty pair of headphones. Yeah. But yeah, so many people, man, it's like, no, it's easier. I'll just do it. I don't know where that sort of, I mean, I do know it was the advent of the, you know, internet and the internet age. But people used to spend thousands on stereo systems because of the sound quality. You know, quality of sound used to be such a big thing. And then all of a sudden it was what's easiest. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, man, you know, obviously I have to use Wave and MP3, but you know, my girlfriend dusted off the stereo that's got the old turntable on it, and I've been picking up vinyl. You know, that crackle between the, you know,
there's nothing like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And you know, I put on Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath a couple months ago. It's just like, man, this is some music you got to listen to it. You know, not on your phone, or you know what I mean, like not in the shower. It's gonna tear your face off.
Yeah,
I love listening to vinyl.
So we're just about out of time, but Nick, you jumped on late, but I want to ask you. So as a drummer, I'm a drummer. I always like to know, you know, who people who are drummers grew up listening to. Who's in your wheelhouse in terms of influences?
Well, as for when I first started, when I was about 13, it would have been people like Mitch Mitchell and John Bonham, Tim Alexander from Primus. But I was always into like metal from a young age, like, you know, so Nico McBrain, probably my first metal influence. Phil Rudd, of course, from AC/DC. I'm talking like before I was really playing, but this is the stuff I was into. But I guess I was into via osmosis more than actually trying to play along. But also bands like John Stania from Helmet. Was a big one when I first started out. Who else? Will Calhoun. Living Colour.
It sounds like you well-rounded list. I want to ask you one thing because I interviewed Angry Anderson from Rose Tattoo. A month and a half ago. They were coming to play a couple shows in LA, and they were doing the Monsters of Rock cruise. They had to have a drummer from LA, and it was like, yeah, our drummer got in trouble with the law. What is it about Australian drummers, man, that they can't keep themselves out of trouble? You mentioned Phil Rudd, right?
Phil Rudd was in a lot of trouble not that long ago. I don't know. Australian drummers are just animals.
Well, I'm getting a good vibe from you there, Nick, so I think we're good. Last question. Where do I send my viewers to find your material, Daniel?
On all your normal, so Sálezianos official Instagram, Sálezianos via Facebook, via YouTube, and Spotify, all of the usual suspects, man, just on the socials. You're going to be hard pressed to find another band that has our name. So that's Sálezianos. So yeah, hit it up.
Awesome, gentlemen. I thank you for doing this. What time of day is it over there?
It's now, what is it? 4:45 in the morning. Yeah, nice and early. Us musician types don't generally, unless we've stayed up till this hour, we're generally asleep.
I was going to say, man, because I went to Cuba last month to play a show down there, and our flight left at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I had to stay up all night. So it was crazy. I feel your pain, and thank you for doing this. Gents, again, great meeting you, and best of luck with what you got going on, and you got a great teammate there in Raquel. She really knows what she's doing.
She's tops. Yep. We love Raquel.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having us, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.